Star Trek's Federation didn't exist for the first 18 episodes of the original series. When modern viewers think about Star Trek, one of the first concepts that comes to mind is the United Federation of Planets, an interstellar alliance driven by cooperation, diplomacy, and exploration. The Federation is the philosophical heart of the franchise, a symbol of optimism in a universe often filled with danger and conflict. But here's the twist. For nearly half of the first season of Star Trek, the original series, the Federation wasn't actually a thing. Not only did the Federation go unnamed for 18 episodes, its structure, purpose, and very existence were still being figured out behind the scenes. Instead, the series introduced a patchwork of vaguely defined governments, military hierarchies, and spacefaring organizations as it searched for identity. In many ways, Star Trek had to become Star Trek, and that process didn't happen overnight. This early ambiguity isn't just a fun trivia fact. It shaped the tone of the series, influenced how characters behaved, and offered insight into how Gene Roddenberry refined his vision. The Federation wasn't there from the start, it evolved. The Enterprise didn't originally serve the Federation. Today, Captain Kirk serves the Federation through Starfleet, reporting to civilian leadership and defending a network of allied species. But in those earliest episodes, no such government body was formally in place. Instead, the Enterprise was said to be part of the United Earth Space Probe Agency, or WEPA, a name that implied a purely Earth-based command. This suggested that humanity was exploring the galaxy solo without Vulcans, Andorians, Tellarites, or any other founding partners. This alternate organizational structure gives the early series a more isolationist, exploratory tone. Humanity wasn't yet the leader of an alliance, it was a lone adventurer pushing into the unknown. In episodes like The Corbomite Maneuver and Miri, references to Earth feel like the sole political authority. Kirk answers to Earth, defends Earth colonies, and references Earth-centric institutions. The notion of a pan-species government simply wasn't in the narrative yet. Starfleet itself wasn't fully defined either. It's not just the Federation that was missing during the show's early run. Starfleet was still fluid as a concept. Ships like the Enterprise were sometimes referred to as being part of the Star Service, Space Fleet Command, or simply the Earth Organization. Rank structures were military-inspired but lacked the civilian oversight and diplomatic mission we associate with Starfleet today. The tone is subtly different. Starfleet is depicted more as a frontier navy than a scientific and diplomatic institution. Orders feel like they come from a higher terrestrial military bureaucracy, not a utopian Federation council. The Enterprise's mission feels more like national or planetary expansion than interspecies cooperation. This ambiguity also explains why Kirk behaves more like a naval captain defending national interests in early episodes, while later seasons show him acting more like a representative of a peaceful coalition. Why the Federation didn't exist at first. Part of this absence is creative evolution. Roddenberry began with a classic 1960s adventure concept, Wagon Train to the Stars. The focus was on exploration and episodic encounters, not political world building. The priority was adventure, not lore. Three key influences led to the Federation being introduced later. One, growing need for a defined interstellar setting. As alien species like Vulcans, Romulans, and Klingons became recurring elements, writers needed a framework that explained diplomatic relations, territories, and interstellar law. A lone Earth agency couldn't justify this scale of storytelling. Two, a shift toward utopian world building. Roddenberry increasingly emphasized a hopeful future where diverse species worked together. A unified government symbolized that hope better than a militaristic Earth-led space force. Three, serialized continuity began linking episodes. Even though TOS was mostly episodic, the writers gradually saw value in world consistency. The Federation allowed shared backstory and rules across episodes. In short, Star Trek realized it needed a political backbone and built one from scratch. Episode 19. The Federation finally arrives. The Federation is first clearly named and described in Season 1, Episode 19, Arena. This episode, famous for Kirk's showdown with the Gorn, marks the turning point where the show finally commits to the idea of a multi-species alliance bound by shared laws and treaties. For the first time, the Federation becomes a formal geopolitical actor. Starfleet protects Federation colonies, negotiates disputes, and navigates borders with rival powers. From this point forward, the Federation becomes central to storytelling. Diplomacy with the Klingon Empire becomes a series-defining conflict. The Organian Peace Treaty only makes sense within a larger political structure. Vulcans and other species gain clearer political roles. The galaxy suddenly has shape, purpose, and politics. How the Federation changes Star Trek's tone. The introduction of the Federation did more than add lore. It transformed the show thematically. Before the Federation, more militaristic framing, humanity-first worldview, Earth as central authority, exploration with nationalist undertones. After the Federation, diplomacy over conquest, multi-species cooperation, peacekeeping missions, tolerance, and shared destiny. Kirk stops feeling like a lone sea captain flying under Earth's flag and starts feeling like a representative of interstellar unity. The shift also makes Mr. Spock's presence more meaningful. He goes from token alien crew member to citizen of a founding member civilization. The Federation's absence helps explain odd early continuity. Longtime fans have noticed inconsistencies in early TOS. Why do some planets seem like lost Earth colonies? Why does the Enterprise intervene with few legal restrictions? Why are alien encounters treated like new species despite existing warped civilizations? These quirks make more sense when placed in a pre-Federation context. The laws, ethics, and diplomatic norms guiding later Trek simply didn't exist in early episodes, on screen, or in concept development. Even the Prime Directive, a core Trek pillar, wasn't fully solidified until later. A universe still forming politically had fewer rules. The Federation's late arrival shows how Star Trek evolved its identity. Star Trek didn't debut as a finished philosophical manifesto. It grew into one. Those first 18 episodes represent the franchise in embryonic form, a show that knew what it wanted to explore, but not yet what it wanted to stand for. The creation of the Federation was the moment Star Trek stopped being a futuristic naval adventure and became humanity's blueprint for a better tomorrow. That late introduction might be one of the best things that happened to the franchise. It allowed the show to develop organically, discovering the themes that would eventually define its legacy. Final thought. The Federation may feel like it has always been the center of the Star Trek universe, but it was something the writers and the characters had to grow into. Before there was an alliance, there was simply Earth reaching into the stars. And from that humble beginning, the greatest fictional government in sci-fi history was born. Sometimes, even utopia needs a pilot episode. Development. Even the Prime Directive, a core Trek pillar, wasn't fully solidified until later. The universe still forming politically had fewer rules. The Federation's late arrival shows how Star Trek evolved its identity. Star Trek didn't debut as a finished philosophical manifesto. It grew into one. Those first 18 episodes represent the franchise in embryonic form, a show that knew what it wanted to explore, but not yet what it wanted to stand for. The creation of the